After one of the biggest manhunts in modern history, both the Sun newspaper and Channel 4 believe that they have uncovered new evidence against the prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. They believe that this evidence is enough to convict the German national of both the abduction and the murder of the young British girl who has been missing since 2007. So in today's video, we are going to dissect the documentary that was put out with all of the new evidence. We are going to speak about whether or not this is enough incriminating evidence to be able to safely get a conviction of Christian Brueckner. And ultimately, we will give our opinions on whether or not they have finally found out what happened in one of, if not the most high-profile disappearance cases in modern history, which is obviously that of Madeleine McCann.
The one thing that I will say before we get going is we both agree that Christian Brueckner is a truly sick and horrendous man. He is being convicted and is rightly in prison for various crimes. And quite frankly, he should be in jail for a lot longer than he actually has been.
I would be happy to lock this man up and throw away the key. Or, if you want to avoid, you know, as much taxpayers' money being spent on him, just give him the chair. Yeah. I'm very much happy for that to be the case. So at no point in this video do I want anyone to feel we are sympathizing with Christian Brueckner. Do I want anyone to feel that we are taking sides here, pointing the finger at anyone else. We are literally, as we always say, the equivalent to two mates sat in a pub. We're not experts. We're not, what is it? Criminologists. We are two normal blokes giving our view on the case. So if that's not what you want to watch, then you can feel completely fine to click off now. But if it is, then strap yourself in, because this is going to be a good one. I want to just quickly ask you, before we start dissecting things and breaking into it, what did you think on first viewing of the Channel 4 documentary? And maybe you could answer the question by telling me, did it meet your expectations of what this sort of bombshell revelationary documentary was going to provide us with?
Now, I think you should watch it. If you haven't already watched it, don't worry, I'll give you a very quick synopsis of how it went down. Basically, Channel 4 and the Sun newspaper came together to write this piece. Now, the Sun have been looking into this for over a year. It's an amazing amount of evidence they've been able to pull together, and they have said that this is a salacious bombshell that the whole world needs to know and understand, with evidence in particular about Christian Brueckner, but not just about Christian Brueckner, about evidence in relation to the Madeleine McCann missing person case. Where we are right now is this. Christian Brueckner is in prison serving time for a that he committed many, many years ago. It was against a 72-year-old woman, an American tourist in Portugal. Yep. So he's now in prison. And what German prosecutors are trying to do is piece together enough evidence to be able to convict him for not just the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, but other crimes. So there has been a trial recently where they tried to convict him of 3 more rapes and 2 more sexual misconduct charges against children. So they're trying to keep this guy in prison to build a case. So the documentary goes through all of the evidence that we have heard to date, both about Christian Brueckner, but also apparently in relation to Madeleine McCann. Now, long story short, guys, there isn't really a lot of evidence about Madeleine McCann in this episode, in this documentary. And what we're going to do in this video is dissect what they actually said and try and understand whether or not there is enough to substantiate Christian Brueckner as a guilty party in the abduction and murder, which they say over and over again has happened. They believe that there's actual physical evidence, Joey, German prosecutors have said, that Madeleine McCann has passed away, that they have in their possession, but they are not releasing to the public as yet. So does that summarise where we are right now?
Yes.
Madeleine had disappeared from a holiday apartment that was no more than 50 metres from where her parents had last had a tapas dinner. It also became clear that they'd left the patio door open. Whoever took Madeleine took advantage of that situation while their backs were turned.
Being on the ground, I thought, how can anyone be so brazen to break into this apartment while the parents are just a few yards away? This must be someone with such a big criminal energy that is really difficult to imagine, someone who really doesn't care.
So my main takeaway from that first clip there was they started to very quickly, in my opinion, build a narrative rather than a concrete story. Because straight away, it's not confirmed that Madeleine was 50 metres away. If you read the reports around the case, maybe you could go 50 metres as the crow flies or something like that. But we know that you had to exit the complex, you had to walk up the side street and then come back in through the side door. So for a documentary that is supposed to be uncovering new truths, to start off on what aren't facts, what are proven to not be facts, for me, that's a quite concerning disposition to start in, if you would agree with that.
Yeah, and look, mate, all we ever try and do is get to the bottom of what the truth is. We did 2 Madeleine videos so far, right? And if you haven't watched them, I strongly recommend that you do. And all we ever care about is presenting facts, going through them in detail, and then basically we try and make our own mind up based on what we see from the facts. And then obviously everyone else watching can try and make up what they believe. And obviously that might be 2 different things. But what we disagree with the most is people that cover the case that have a perspective on it that isn't substantiated on facts. So we're immediately going into this documentary, we're expecting new evidence, as you say, and what we're being presented with is a story that isn't necessarily the truth. And there's other parts to this, isn't there?
Well, I'll add to that story. The wording that was used there was while their backs were turned. The child was taken while their backs was turned, yeah? Their backs weren't fucking turned. I'm sorry, but their backs weren't turned. A child going missing when their parents' back was turned is what happened to Denise Bolger in 1993 when Jamie Bolger was taken by John Venables and Robert Thompson. She is handing over cash in a butcher's. She turns round, her child is gone. She was under the same roof in the same, not only shopping centre, in the same shop as that child. She turns for 2 seconds, the child is gone. That child, in my opinion, was taken while her back was turned, right? When you spend 3-4 hours away from your children and you're going back and doing regular checks once every 15 minutes, that then becomes once every half hour, that then gets reported as once every 45 minutes, your back is not turned, my friend. You have left those children on their own. There is no back being turned, right? The McCanns, did they or did they not have a baby monitor at that table?
They did not have a baby monitor.
They did not have a baby monitor at that table. So what good, let's even call it a 15-minute check. We know that's factually incorrect, but these lot have started off by being factually incorrect, so why don't we? Let's say they were doing a 15-minute check. If your baby wakes and coughs and chokes, I know it's an awful thing to think of, but if that happens, will a 15-minute check be enough that you will be able to catch that happen?
No way.
No way.
Simple as that.
No chance. So you're immediately being negligent. Please do not use the phrase when their backs were turned. Their backs weren't turned. They were gone from their children.
And don't present things to us as an audience, because there's lots of people out there that might not be that, au fait with the case. They might not know what's going on. And so we're watching this documentary. We're already being presented information. We're saying that someone has already broken in. Yep. We're saying that there's already an abduction. There's already a criminal profile of a masked figure, imaginary figure that we have to say is the truth. Now, there's not a lot of evidence really for this, is there?
There's literally next to no evidence, but we'll go into more of that. My problem with this, and this is a societal problem as a whole now, and some people won't like this, some people will like it, but the society as a whole, and the powers that be and whoever's involved in these sort of things higher up, they are so used to us not questioning. They're so used to us not questioning anything that they think, right, we can lay those sort of ground rules straight away that this is what has happened, and then we'll build a criminal profile on a hypothetical character.
But the thing is as well, right, I really want to make this really, really clear. All I want to understand is exactly what happened to Maddie. So if she was abducted, that's fine. Like, that is a completely plausible thing, right? But show me the evidence.
Show me the proof. Show me the proof of the abduction.
Give me anything. Yeah, any evidence at all. And also to say a break-in as well. There's not a lot of evidence for a break-in.
But, right, there may not be a lot of evidence for an abduction. There may not be a lot of evidence for a break-in. But I think we all know that in this documentary, if they're uncovering never-seen-before evidence, and evidence being the key word, I think we all know that regardless of there not being much proof of an abduction or a break-in, they're going to have something quite concrete here that links this man to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. So let's have a little look at the next clip.
Known to have lived in the Praia De Luz area, investigators said records placed his phone near the Ocean Club on the night of Madeleine's disappearance, while a car he owned was re-registered to someone else's name. the day after she went missing.
Now that is interesting to know that there is a man with, as we say, the criminal profile of Christian Brueckner in that area that evening, and obviously has been placed by phone records close to the
Praia De Luz
area.
Yeah, basically like within a kilometre squared.
Where have you got that from? Have they said that?
That's what they generally say around this case in terms of the phone records and the phone mask. They say that they can triangulate a position of someone within a kilometre square.
Okay.
That's effectively what they say. That's commonly asserted in this case.
Right. And do we know when they placed him in the area? Because they say at the time of the disappearance.
They do. They said it was at 7:30. So Madeleine went missing at about 9:45, 10 o'clock is when Kate raised the alarm that she went missing. Police weren't called until 10:14.
Right. Okay. So that ping, just for example, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say Madeleine went missing. What's the earliest it could have been? 9:30.
The earliest that it could have been is about 9:40 because I think there was a check at 9:30.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's call it 2 hours, 15 minutes. Again, I don't ever want people to think we're sticking up for the suspects here. What I would say is, can you confirm on more phone records that he was still in the area? Because in 2 hours and 15 minutes, you can get 100 miles away from that area.
Yeah. And this is the thing, again, the way that you and I are thinking about this is, will it stand up in court? Right? And a phone ping 2.5 hours or 2 hours 15 minutes away from the time of the disappearance is not going to be able to be admissible in court as evidence more than anything circumstantial. So circumstantial evidence is he was generally in the area, he kind of lived in the area, and that's all we can say.
He was a nonce.
And he was a nonce.
Yeah.
That is literally what they're piecing together at the moment.
But we've got to understand there's going to be more that comes to light. So I think that we'd need to watch a few more clips before really drawing something up. However, one thing I would say to you is, do you know what the number one crime in Portugal is?
No, go on, tell me.
The number one crime in Portugal is theft.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
The number 2 crime is domestic abuse or abuse against minors. So it falls into one category, right? That is meaning that that's just registered crimes. Right? So some people will have crimes committed against them and they don't register it. But that registered crime comes ahead, that category, I should say, comes ahead of more reports of scamming, assault, drink driving, criminal damage, and drug-related crimes. So that there goes to show that there are a lot of these crimes happening. A database that was made accessible in 2022 showed that there were as many as 6,500 sexual offenders registered to be in Portugal, right? So to put things into perspective, that's double the amount of people. 6,500 is double the amount of people that were living in Praia De Luz at that time.
Mad.
Or were there on holiday, etc. What I'm saying here is, because of those numbers that I've looked into, I need a little bit more for my money than you to go, he was a nonce, he was in the area,
Yep.
he had an interest in children.
Yep.
I need a little bit more than that. I'm sorry, because on those numbers there, 6,500, you know what I mean, sexual offenders registered, I need a little bit more.
And
because I'm sure that we could build a criminal profile on a fairly sizable chunk, percentage-wise, of that 6,500 that would then fit that same thing. I'm fairly sure of that 6,500 that others would have had phone pings in that area around that time. It's a popular area on the Algarve.
So true. And in fact, police actually did investigate 52 different sex offenders that had a link to that area. So they actually managed to, to filter it down to that level. But yeah, there's absolutely evidence to say that they would find 52 other criminals that could be as part of this.
But let's strap tight, because we know that this documentary is uncovering newfound evidence, isn't it? That never seen before evidence. So we know that out of those 52, there's a reason why this man has got to be the front runner. Why don't we get into the next clip?
Yeah, there is. And basically, police then did do some more digging into this guy, and fairly, rightly so. This is why I actually do think you've got to, in a case in which they don't commend the police very often, the police do their investigation, right? They go into all of the level about this guy. They go in and search his homes all around basically Europe, to be honest with you. And they find this home in Germany, which is this abandoned box factory, a really fucking scary place, a really weird place. And this is what they find.
A neighbor, he was walking his dog, and the dog was running onto this compound of Christian B. And the dog started to dig because he smelled something and he did not let it go. So his owner had to climb over the fence and get his dog. By that, he saw that there was sticking out a little tiny triangle of a red either carpet or blanket or whatever. And the smell which came out from this hole, from the soil, was this kind of corpse smell.
Fuck me, he's found a body. The dog's found a body.
Yeah, I mean, it's on that land.
Yep.
They're building this up. They've got new evidence, so they must have found something.
They must have done. Let's have a look.
The source of the smell was the body of a dead dog.
Hold on. So they found a dead dog. That's not that weird.
I mean, it's pretty weird.
It's not that weird. It's not that weird. This guy was living where?
In Germany.
In Germany,
at the time,
right?
Yeah, small town, Braunschweig.
In Germany. We're taking it as fact that this is his dog.
Well, yeah, I mean, could be.
Is there any evidence? Is there any evidence linking that this is his dog?
There's
Has he
not
admitted
a lot of
that this is his
evidence
dog?
of anything, mate. Yeah.
No, okay. So we're taking it as fact that because this guy lived here, that's definitely his dog underneath. Fine, let's take it as fact. What do you do with a goldfish when it dies, Josh?
You probably flush it.
You probably flush it down the toilet.
Yeah.
What do we do with our pets when they die?
Probably bury them in the back garden.
No, I think maybe you do, you sicko. I think most people would say that you take them to a vet and normally you have them cremated. Yeah, that's what I've done with all of my pets.
Yeah.
Key difference. I'm a tax-paying, law-abiding member of society. I'm not a criminal. I'm not this guy. Did this guy have pet insurance? Which is what you would need. You'd need animal insurance, pet insurance to have your dog cremated. Did he have that?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
So if it was his dog,
Yeah. It's the right thing to do.
he's probably buried it.
Yeah.
When it's died. Didn't say the dog had stab wounds all over it. Didn't say he'd murdered the dog. You know, some serial killers start off murdering animals, things like that. Didn't say any of that. Said they found a dead dog.
It's definitely look.
It's interesting.
To play the other side of it, mate. It's concerning. They found a dead creature on this guy's land who's already very problematic. And the caveat to all of this is what was in the box factory is very serious. Now, underneath the dead dog, they find a wallet. Within the wallet, there is a series of memory cards and memory sticks. And what is in there is incredibly troubling.
Beneath it was a plastic bag. Inside was a wallet containing 6 USB sticks and 2 memory cards. They found 75 toddlers' swimsuits. There were preschooler bikes and toys, as well as 3 working guns with ammunition. Police discovered a mask and bizarre self-made photos of how Brueckner would look in it. And there was a suitcase. Inside were pictures of young children with a list of phone numbers.
Okay, yeah, definitely concerning. Definitely links the dog to him, if obviously his other possessions were found in there. When they speak about the fact that there were swimsuits, that there were children's toys, it would definitely lead you to think, okay, you know, this could be a dungeon, a den that he has built with the plan of abducting children.
I think it's clear that this is incredibly troubling and he is a pedophile. And this is an area which absolutely should be searched. All of the evidence should be gathered and they should be convicting this guy of serious crimes. The guy's clearly fucked.
100%. This is a sick man who needs locking up and throwing away the key. However, right, in 6 memory sticks with pictures dating back as far as they do, I would be very hopeful that there was some evidence on those memory sticks linking him to Madeleine McCann. Because ultimately, as much as you are building a case that has already been built and that he's already served jail time for, in the fact that this man is a nonce, there's little, if anything, so far in this documentary, in my opinion, to link this back to Madeleine McCann. At the moment, my standpoint on it, until we uncover more and watch more of the evidence in this documentary on it, my standpoint on it is that he is a nonce that was in the area on the night.
By the way, the entirety of this documentary is under the proviso of new information, right? And you'll have seen, if you've seen our previous Madeleine videos, we have actually described all of this evidence. We've talked about the box factory. We've detailed this in immense level of detail. So this is all evidence we already knew. So again, we're like 15, 20 minutes into the documentary right now, and we haven't had a shred of new evidence.
No, not
all
only
of
that.
This has been described.
Not only that, this sort of den/dungeon or whatever that Christian Brueckner has here with children's toys in, with swimsuits, right? Where have those swimsuits come from? Have they come from crimes that haven't been reported? Has he taken them from children that he's abducted? If so, where are the reports of the abductions? Where are the reports? Because let's say, for example, there was how many swimsuits?
75.
75. If he's abducted 75 children, there's some reports. There's some reports. So I'm of the belief that he hasn't taken those swimsuits off of children. This is a sick man. I'm not arguing it. But where is the evidence that even if it's not linked to Madeleine, they've all come from other children he's taken them off of? Where is the evidence that a child has been taken there and abducted? He's taking pictures of all these things. Do you not think... We covered the Tia Sharp murder, right? And that sick step-grandfather or grandfather-in-law or whatever it was of hers that had abducted her. He had took multiple pictures of her, both before and after her tragic death, okay? That's the sort of thing these people do. You got 6 memory sticks there. I'm expecting some evidence of children that you have abducted, especially Madeleine, being that you're the prime suspect.
Yeah, look, and let's just say this. There was an immense amount of evidence and stuff on those hard drives that the police then used in later cases. So to say that there's no evidence on any of the crimes is wrong, basically. There's lots of evidence of crimes that Christian Brueckner has committed. There's a suitcase full of images of children and also phone numbers, which again is incredibly problematic and potentially has far wider reaching implications about what Christian Brueckner's role was. But at the moment, in terms of the documentary, that's all we're looking at, we haven't seen anything linked to Maddie. So let's watch the next clip.
Then Portuguese police decided to do something really shocking.
Kate and Jerry have both been declared arguidos.
I'd never heard the word arguido before. I'd never heard that. Kate and Jerry are suspects over the disappearance of their daughter.
To me, it kind of looked like the police on the ground didn't know where else to look.
Right, so if we didn't think that this documentary was already starting to move very agenda-driven, then there's the straw that breaks the camel's back there for me, because it's not so much what you do say, sometimes it's what you don't say. And having both sides of the coin is something that this documentary very much do not have. They've picked to interview 2 people who already are set on distancing Kate and Jerry McCann to have any wrongdoing here. And remember, this isn't an episode over whether Kate or Jerry McCann know what happened to their daughter, or over you know, if they were involved in it. If
we just want to know the answers.
There's more that meets the eye.
Yeah, we just want to know who it was.
But this specifically is an episode where we are examining the new evidence being given against Christian Brueckner. Now, if the evidence wasn't already, in my opinion, weak, that he is linked to Madeleine McCann, what fucking evidence is that? You've got a bloke going, I don't even know what arguido meant. Okay, you don't speak Portuguese. Brilliant.
This guy...
No. What does that have to do with anything? Why is that relevant enough to make it into a documentary,
This guy, by the way, is meant to be the chief foreign correspondent for the Sun newspaper, right? He's coming in, meant to be an expert on the case. He's looked into this for over a year, building this new evidence on this story. And we're leading now with a narrative, and also the fact that he doesn't know key information about this. Like, mate, honestly, just get to it. We've gone over and over this story so many times. There's people know this story inside out. And then again, when we're talking about narrative, right? They've talked about how the parents were then implicated in the story, as if this was something that happened immediately within the sort of the search, you know, the immediate aftermath. We've talked about the key being the 48 hours after Madeleine goes missing. We talked about the most recent movements of this guy at the time. So we're thinking, if you watch this documentary without knowledge of the case, you're thinking, oh, the parents were made alguidos really soon after it. But do you know how long it was from when Madeleine went missing to when the McCanns were made chief suspects? Do you actually know how long it was? It was 5 months.
Yeah.
So
mental.
Again, just even with the portrayal of the story, they're misdirecting you. And as watching this, that really wound me up.
Mate, it's not just that. It's the words they used. It's the facial expressions. It's the body language that they're using, as if the parents being made arguidos was this bizarre thing. And ultimately, it's not bizarre. It's not bizarre in the slightest. The factual evidence supports heavily in favour that Madeleine came to some sort of harm within that apartment. So this documentary should be shifting that evidence. It should be shifting our opinion and shifting what people believe happened, or a lot of people believe happened. I know a lot of viewers in the channel believe that Madeleine came to some sort of harm within that apartment. This documentary should be going, no, we have got evidence here to show you why you're wrong in your belief of that. And where does the belief stem from, Josh?
Go on, tell me.
It stems from proof and evidence, right? I'm not saying it's proof and evidence that Madeleine's parents killed her or anything like that. What I'm saying is, at this moment in time, until this documentary shows me something different, which you may well be about to play me, there is still more evidence, considerably more evidence, that Madeleine McCann came to harm within that apartment rather than an abduction theory.
So I've got to be honest, Joey, I've been feeling a little bit tired recently.
I've been feeling a bit tired, yeah, I have.
Well, I know a lot of you have been as well, because you keep talking to me in the comments all about Space Goods, who are the channel sponsor of Joey and Josh. This is an all-in-one mushroom and adaptogen powder, and it's designed to help you get into your flow state and get the maximum out of your day. Joey, in his hands right now, has the rainbow dust.
This bad boy is exquisite, if I may say so. I've been using this in the same way that I would traditionally use coffee. Obviously, it gives me that energy burst, but I don't get some of the side effects that I don't really like with coffee. Often a little bit of anxiety when I first take it, you know, feeling that head rush. I don't get that so much. What I really get with this is being able to channel my focus in after I've had a coffee with it.
And this is because, mate, within that little pouch there, you've got things like ashwagandha, you've got things like cordyceps, you've got things like vitamin B5, and those are all things that promote that sort of like natural energy and focus. Now, the flavour you've got in your hand right now is the chocolate flavour. They also do coffee, they also do vanilla and cinnamon, and they also have a strawberry flavour. So you know it's going to taste great. Now, I've got the Asher dust. That is the thing that helps you get to sleep. So I've been taking this before I get to bed. Think of it like a hot chocolate before you go to sleep, and it helps me get off to sleep way, way better. In this, they've got things like reishi, they've got things like magnesium, and things like chamomile, which is really, really good to help you go to sleep. And you can have these things hot or cold, and you can actually have them with water or milk if you want it a bit creamier, like the hot chocolate that I said. Now, if you use the link in the description, Space Goods are actually offering all of you guys and girls 20% off your order. So all you got to do, remember, is hit the link in the description and use our code, which is very simply all in caps, Joey Josh. And it's not just that, Joey. If you want to get the little pack that you've got in your hand right now, they're offering a little bonus for all of you guys to get not just the pack, but a mug, a whisk, and a spoon, so you can sort of label out and get the exact portion that you need. And you can get that for just 24 quid on us. Thank us later if you use code Joey Josh. So thank you so much to Space Goods for sponsoring this video and being part of the channel. We really, really appreciate you. And thank you to all of you for supporting them. It means the absolute world. Now let's get back into the video. They say at the end of this documentary, the German police have access to information which means and shows that Madeleine might have passed away and gone, right? That's one of those things where you can say it, but if you can't substantiate those claims with evidence that you've seen yourself or evidence that is presented in court, it's very difficult to tell that to the public.
And what year are we in, Josh, right now?
We are in 2025.
And what year did the German police start saying that they had this evidence?
Was it 2012?
It was 2020. It was
oh, wow.
So they started they actually
named Christian Brueckner.
Well, it's very funny, right? And we said this on the other podcast, but just while we speak about it here, what about the head police officer on the case?
Yeah, Gonzalo Amaral was his name. He wrote a book, and he was subject to a lot of libel charges from the McCanns because there was a sort of a backwards and forwards whether this guy was incompetent, whether the McCanns were involved. Gonzalo Amaral's assertion is that the parents had some involvement in this, and then obviously they countersued. Anyway, he ended up being acquitted of those libel charges and ended up basically saying this. He stated that the authorities, the police, you know, generally within Europe, wanted to pin this on a German paedophile that they already had in prison to effectively draw a line under the case, blame it on him, make him the prime suspect, convict him of it, and so everyone would stop talking about what happened to Madeleine McCann, and then effectively you found the abductor and the potential murderer.
This was Gonzalo Amarad's opinion, right?
Yes.
This is what he gave as his opinion. This isn't what we're stating as fact. This was his opinion on it. So that would prove that Christian Brueckner is a man that has been known by authorities and known by Operation U-Tree, anyone, the German police, anyone invested in the case for many, many years, right? Dating back as far as probably 2010, 2012, something like that. We're now in 2025. You've got evidence, apparently, to support your claim that she is dead and she has been murdered. I'm hoping we're going to see some of that evidence.
We know that sniffer dogs followed Madeleine's scent along the back of the apartment to this main road. From there, it's unclear, but the kidnapper might have crossed here through unlit scrubland rather than walk by the Ocean Club and risk being seen by the McCanns having dinner. The captor would probably have come downhill to this junction. Significantly, this is where a family of holidaymakers witnessed a man carrying a young girl.
They described exactly a man carrying a child as if he would not be used to carry a child. Witnesses described the child, and it very much was a description of Maddie.
Search dogs lost the scent of Madeleine in the car park of the village church, suggesting a captor used a vehicle to escape. Police know that Christian Brueckner used this camper van in the area. He also drove a Jaguar XJ6 with German number plates. It was the day after Madeleine disappeared that the car was re-registered under the name of an acquaintance.
Fuck me, we've got a lot to uncover there then, haven't we? Should we start off on the trail that the abductor...
sniffer dogs.
When have sniffer dogs ever been wrong?
This is insane, though, because, again, we're talking about an investigative journalist-led documentary, and they say the words, "it might have happened." Suggested that their path might have gone over to scrubland. This is meant to be new evidence, Joey.
It's unclear, but he could have walked up that road. Yeah, or he couldn't. Or he could have done. Okay, cool. He could have done. Now, when he walks up this road, yeah, this is the point when tourists see a man carrying a child. He's actually carrying that child as if he doesn't know the child. You assert that, and people carry people in different ways. But yeah, the child very much matched the description of Madeleine. What is the question I would have for those witnesses? That's it. Did the man match the description of Christian Brueckner?
Joey.
Because can I tell you something? With the fucking amount of reaching they're doing here, if the man did match the description of Christian Brueckner, do you not think they would say?
Can I just say that this, Joey, is the very famous Martin Smith sighting, which we discussed at length in our Madeleine McCann videos.
Does he look? Does the man look like Christian Brueckner?
The description that Martin Smith and his family also asserted was that this man was an average build, 5'10" tall, approximately 40, brown hair, cut short, full head of hair, beige trousers, dark top, and walking alone.
Okay, so the footage and images that we've already been privy to from Christian Brueckner shows that at the time, he was younger than 40. You could get that wrong. Definitely not brown hair.
No.
Definitely not brown hair. You would class that as blonde hair. Even when it's got gel in it, it's still blonde, his hair. I've seen the pictures of him with spiky hair. You'd never class it as brown. You'd class it as blonde hair, wouldn't you?
You would.
I think that if you were to give a description of someone, Christian Brueckner is a man with some very distinct features that I think you'd be able to assert and be able to give a description of, you know? He's got piercing blue eyes, for one. He's got a crater face. He obviously suffered badly with acne as a child because he's got a complete crater face. It looks like the moon surface or whatever. There is a lot more to describe as Christian Brueckner, but okay, maybe if so. Again, it does feel like straws are very much being clutched at in that piece. Or am I wrong to think that?
It's just so difficult to say we suspected they might be going in that direction. The suspect might have looked in this way, but he was described as something different. Like, when you're building a case as a criminologist, people that are actually experts at doing this, you look for matching stories. You look for accounts that sort of add up. Nothing so far that we've seen, Joey, adds up.
Well, can I just quickly touch on the sniffer dogs as well? They're going on information that suits them from the sniffer dogs. Weren't sniffer dogs used in this case?
I've heard that sniffer dogs were quite important in
Sniffer
this case.
dogs, cadaver dogs,
blood dogs,
dogs that are specifically trained to smell for the scent of blood, for the scent of cadaver, which is obviously the canned body, for obviously Madeleine's scent. And we all know what happened when those dogs were brought in. They alerted to various spots of the apartment. One of them being the cupboard, one of them being the back of the sofa. The blood dog, I think, was the back of the sofa. The cadaver dog was the cupboard, right? Those dogs don't alert to something unless they have picked up a scent. Could that scent have been Madeleine's? It very possibly could have been, considering the circumstances. Is there any chance in the world it could have not been Madeleine's? There probably is. But there's just as big a chance, if not a whole lot bigger, that when these dogs sniffed until the end of the road, then when you start going, well, from there he could have took this direction and he could have walked here so he was out of sight. You are clutching at straws, my friend. You're clutching at straws heavily. So far, we're picking specific clips, but we're actually about 40 odd minutes into this documentary. Just so far, Josh, are you yet to be hit with anything that makes you think, wow, I've learned some newfound evidence on this man being the man that abducted Madeleine McCann?
This is stuff they literally knew at the time. All of the information that has been provided so far, beyond the memory cards that came after, is all contemporaneous information.
But they've told it with a spooky soundtrack on the background, so it's good stuff.
It's
good stuff.
It must be true. Yeah. Can I ask you a question actually about the cadaver dogs? Do you think that the abduction theory is therefore completely void by the fact that the cadaver dog signaled in the house? Like, i.e., let me explain what I mean. For me, the abduction theory is a man goes into the apartment, takes Madeleine McCann alive, removes her from the apartment, and then kidnaps her. That's what an abduction would sort of traditionally be, right? If a cadaver dog has indicated that there's a dead body in the apartment, and by the way, they clarified that there was no other dead bodies known to have been in that apartment. It was quite clear that had to be associated with the case, really. They kind of ruled out every other way. Does that then rule out the abduction theory? Again,
it's open to interpretation.
There you go.
For me, does it rule it out? About 95% it does. Yeah. I'm not saying there's not wiggle room, but I'm saying, you prove something beyond reasonable doubt, but you can get it up to with reasonable doubt very, very easily. And with close to beyond reasonable doubt right now, the evidence, not the hypotheticals, not this man could have done this man could have done that. We've already told you that we're lying because we said they were snatched from behind their parents' back and it was 50 meters away. We already know. You've opened with a lie. The foundations aren't there for us to then start believing what you're saying are truths when you've very clearly described hypothetical situations here. It would lead me to believe that I am going to go on the evidence that I've always gone on for now and still be in the mindset that something happened inside that apartment. That's just my opinion. But maybe with the next couple of clips, you can change my mind.
The Sun's investigation can also reveal that police are in possession of stories written by Christian Brueckner years after Madeleine McCann was taken. They have never been heard in public before and given insight into his disturbing abduction and abuse fantasies. One of these stories was found on a USB stick during the raid of his factory. In it, he imagines kidnapping a mother and her child using chemicals.
For me, in my mind, there is no doubt anymore that Christian B. had an obsession with snatching little children.
Yeah, Christian B. had an obsession with snatching little children. Obviously, he's never been proven, or I don't think he's even been accused of snatching a child.
He's a convicted I don't think he's been convicted of kidnap.
That's what I'm saying. Kidnapping a child. But he is a convicted. We know that he's got sexual offences on his...
Yeah, the thing is, though, is like the evidence that they're providing here could be circumstantial in building a case against Christian Brueckner, i.e. the fact that he had an obsession, that he wanted to do this to children, and that he was this way inclined, right?
Hold on. New evidence.
Yeah.
In the description title of the documentary, it says new evidence, no?
Yes, it does.
Is that new evidence?
No, it's not new evidence.
Did we already know that this man was a nonce?
Yes, we did. Over and over and over again.
So they're hammering the point home that this man is a sexual predator. We get that. We understand that. We don't like this man. We want him given the electric chair if possible. But I'm looking for new evidence here. So, and also, you know, when they're talking about things that he's written, right? These are sick fantasies. I mean, we can put the shoe on the other foot here. What about page 129 of Kate's books, where she describes the thought of Madeleine's perfect little genitalia torn apart? Again, she's describing a traumatic thought for her, and Christian Brueckner's ones are describing fantasies. So different ends of the spectrum, but still both quite weird.
Very,
in my
very,
opinion.
very problematic. And actually, a lot of commenters said about this story in the book, because we didn't talk about this in our first couple of episodes on Madeleine McCann, and they're right to do so. This is a super weird turn of phrase.
So,
like, why would you, like, she's, by the way, that's not something she just thought or had a dream about. That's something that she's dreamt about, thought about, rationalized, written in a book, published the book,
proofread,
made money from the book. It's just weird.
But we should believe Christian Brueckner's words that he has written down are sinister, and Kate McCann's words that she has written down aren't sinister. Now, I'm a parent myself. The last thing that I would ever think of is that, which I'm not even going to word again. That wouldn't be in my head. That wouldn't be in my mind. And if it was, do you know what I'd do? I'd fucking bury it to the bottom of my mind. That's what I'd do. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be writing in a book about it. So, look, again, I am not accusing Kate McCann of being anywhere near this guy's level. I'm not accusing her of that. But I'm saying we want consistency. Yeah? We've already shown that there's not consistency in their reporting of the police sniffer dogs. And now there's not really consistency of their reporting in notes or bits of things that have been written by people involved in the case. Because I think that Kate McCann's words are nearly as problematic as these fucking words.
There's two things that we really need from this documentary, bearing in mind what they said the documentary was all about. New evidence, and also evidence linking Christian Brueckner to the crime of abducting Madeleine McCann. Thus far, in all of the clips that we provided, the nearest thing to evidence is circumstantial, i.e. painting a picture of how awful this man is. Now, in a court of law, you can build a lot of circumstantial evidence, but you need to pin someone there.
Now, what did you say to me once about a lack of evidence?
Tell me.
You said to me that a lack of evidence is almost evidence in itself. Mm-hmm. Okay? They've now seized computers. They've seized up to 6 memory sticks.
Maybe, I think, to be fair, loads more, because we're just talking about the ones that were in the wallet. Yeah. I think there were loads more.
There were probably loads more.
And in fact, what they said in the documentary itself is that police had access to an 80 gigabyte drive, a hard drive, which had evidence potentially linking and showing that he had access to say that she was murdered. Yeah. Madeleine was actually murdered.
And we were very much of the opinion when this news first broke, and I was believing it at first, when it first broke, I was very much of the opinion of, right, okay, they found a picture of her on one of his hard drives. They found, whatever. They haven't even found that. They haven't even found a picture of her on this man's hard drive. And if they have, it's being kept secret.
I think to say that they haven't found a picture of her is difficult to say without obviously knowing what the contents of the drives were. But what we can definitely say is that the public are not aware of exactly what the evidence is. Now, the police might have their reasons. They might have their reasons in building a legal case against this guy to withhold that level of information. But to go back to your perspective on this, if they did have that evidence and they did have circumstantial and proof that he had access to an image of Madeleine McCann, that would be forming a key part of a court case that would, in time, be surfaced. Now, we have never, ever, ever got anywhere near a court case linking this guy to Madeleine McCann.
What are the police desperate to do with this man at the moment?
Convict him and keep him in jail for as long as possible.
Regardless of convicting him, keep him in jail for as long as possible.
Yeah.
If there was a single shred of evidence on these hard drives, on these memory sticks, on these computers that they have seized, there would be no need to be going out and telling the world we're doing everything we can to keep this man in prison. Show one judge, anyone, show them one bit of evidence, this man stays in prison. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. So whether or not you can tell, listen, I've always said, this is just our opinions, but whether or not you can sit there and say to me, Josh, oh, they might have it, but we might not be privy to it. Sorry, mate. this man could walk free in September. If they had it, there wouldn't be that case. There wouldn't be that outcome or that possibility there.
So why don't we go now to another piece of key evidence, which apparently was portrayed as a location which Maddie could actually be, a dam in Portugal.
There's more disturbing evidence from the raid on Brueckner's property. Could images directly link him to a location police searched during the McCann investigation?
Police in Portugal investigating the disappearance of Madeleine McCann say they will resume searching for her at a reservoir near the spot where she disappeared in 2007. Police said they would conduct the search at the Praia Dam around 35 miles from Praia De Luz at the request of the German authorities.
The Sun's investigation can now reveal evidence that directly connects him to this location. During the 2016 police raid on his property in Germany, they uncovered a satnav. The data on it shows Christian Brueckner used the secluded reservoir as a regular hideout.
This satnav proved for the first time what his pattern of movement was, and that the Arades Dam was at the centre of that. That is why police decided to search the dam in 2023.
Right. Is it just me that's confused, or are you lot too? Could you explain that to me? What did we just watch there?
Honestly, I'm so confused by it. So basically what we've seen is that there's an image of Christian Brueckner on the hard drives. It's a fucked up image and he is a super sick man. But what we've seen is he's at that location in Portugal. He's in a secluded spot. It might have been a location that he frequented very often. It might not have been. Satnav places him there and that's it.
But the timeline that they've given us is all muddled up because it skips backwards and forwards. So basically they're saying, well, we can prove he's at this location that got searched in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. But then it suggests that the reason it got searched is because they fucking found pictures of him there. So where's the, what is the proof? Well, he was at this location that got searched. Of course he was. That's why you fucking searched it.
Yeah.
Find me the timeline that shows that before Christian Brueckner was ever a suspect, there was a search made of that dam that was justified, that there was evidence to suggest that she could be there. Someone said something and they've searched that before he was a suspect. Because what that did to me was it very carefully muddled up the timelines of that, jumped backwards and forwards, and then led us to believe a whole lot of nothing.
Again, though, we just want this place searched. Like, if there has been any evidence or any inkling that this guy is around there, then obviously the key thing to do is search it. Find out where he often stayed, find out the location that he parked his van, search all around that, search the ground, try and find some information. Now, to be fair to the police, they did these boreholes. They tried to find different elements of the ground. They tried to do some searches. They would have done some chemical tests to see if there was any human remains or bodies or anything like that in the area. They did do the searches, right? And again, mate, as far as we're led to believe, because we're just normal people, we don't have access to the information. We're not investigative journalists. We don't work for all these newspapers or Channel 4. What I'm expecting is they go and do the boreholes. Evidence. Find me some chemical evidence.
Well, you would expect that because the woman specifically says shocking new evidence. Was there anything there that you would describe as shocking?
They literally went to an area that Christian B frequented and they dug some holes.
And would you describe it as shocking?
No.
And would you describe it as evidence?
And would you describe it as new?
There we go. Listen, at this rate, I'm going to need a confession from the man because clearly they haven't got any proof. Have you got a confession for me?
Coming right up, Joey.
Helge B says that in 2008, he's been at a music festival in Spain and that Christian B was also there. They started to talk, according to Helge B, about this Maddie situation. And Helge B claims to have said, I'm kind of curious that a child can disappear just like that. And according to Helge B, Christian B replied to that, well, she didn't scream. Helge B then says he reacted to that in kind of a surprised way and looked at him. And then, according to Helge B, Christian B noticed what he had just said. And then, according to Helge B, Christian B not only left the scene, but also left the music festival overnight. Helge B, up to today, is convinced that that was the moment that the suspect confessed the abduction of Maddie McCann to him.
Possibly a confession, isn't it? Possibly a confession.
I mean, Joey, again, let me just go back to a word called new. We discussed Helge B at length in our episodes about Madeleine McCann. Mm-hmm. We talked about his supposed, confession or, apparent hearing of a confession by Christian B. And
I would more say interpretation.
Interpretation of a confession.
Yeah.
And again, let's go back to what they would admit in court. Is that a confession of a murder in court?
Very much no. It's not a confession of a murder. He didn't say, I did it. He didn't say I was involved and whatnot. But is it a weird thing to say?
It's a very weird thing to say.
It's very weird.
Do you trust Helga B and his testimony? Do you believe him?
Courts haven't in the past. Courts haven't. He's been proven to be a reliable witness in a case against Christian Brueckner. It's also reported that he's been proven to be an unreliable witness in a couple of cases.
Yep.
For me, once you get proven to be an unreliable witness in certain cases, it kind of does lead me to question your credibility. Now, is it a weird thing to say, if he did say it, because we've already proved or said that it's reportedly proved that this man is an unreliable witness, right? Yep. So if Christian B said it, let's go on to the assumption he did say it. Let's follow that narrative. If he said it, is it a weird thing to say? Yes, it is. Now, if me and you go to a festival, Josh, we go to SW4 for the day.
Love to be down there.
Love to be there. Clapham Common, your stomping
my
ground.
neck of the woods, yeah.
Your stomping ground. If we go to SW4 for the day, you don't drink. Imagine I'm smashed and whatever. If I started talking to you about Madeleine McCann, you'd probably go, why are we... Bit weird. Why are we talking about Madeleine McCann?
Yeah.
But Helga B was already having a conversation with him.
Yeah.
So, bit weird answer, bit weird conversation to be having. And Helga B admits in that conversation that he's the one that said, he was what was it, fascinated by a disappearance?
Yeah.
Or...
Can I also just say just go back to the documentary for a second. They spend the next 2.5 minutes after this saying that, we know he was at the music festival. He was involved in a car accident after. Yeah. So we can prove that he's there. Does that prove...
That's all the proof.
Does that prove that, 1, he said anything to Helga B, 2, that he's confessed to absolutely anything, or 3, even really, was he at the music festival? I mean, it's literally a joke.
Josh flashed me today. Inappropriate, yeah. Offence.
Yeah.
He actually flashed me, right? I've got no proof of the flashing, but I have got a receipt for today's studio session.
Yeah, fair enough.
Proves
so that means I did it.
You were
that
here.
Means I did it.
You were here.
Yeah.
I can prove you were here.
Yeah.
So that's enough.
So basically, that is where we come to the end of our clips. But that isn't the end of the documentary. At the end of the documentary, they then go into the court cases and sort of give us a portrayal of where Christian B is right now. The long story of that, told in a short way, is that Christian B is going to get out of jail on September the 17th, 2025. So it's not very long away. The German authorities know that this guy is an incredibly bad man and they don't want him on the streets, which I respect, and I very much hope they convict him and
100%.
very much hope that he stays in jail for the rest of his life. But the key thing that they haven't been able to do, and they have had a lot of time, and bear in mind, Operation Grange and a case and a sort of a task force in Scotland Yard in the UK has spent £13 million of taxpayer money to try and find out what happened to Madeleine McCann. They still haven't been able to identify enough evidence to be able to try this guy. Now, they're trying to piece together some evidence. They're trying to find information to be able to build a case to get Christian Brueckner in a dock, in a court of law, to be able to say that Madeleine McCann was abducted and murdered by him. But at the moment, they haven't been able to do so.
Right, so all of that being said now, and having watched the documentary, obviously we're lucky enough now that we're reaching out to a wide community. We've got all of our members, which we are eternally grateful for, by the way. That membership scheme means that you will pay a very small monthly fee and you'll get the videos up to 48 hours before they're released to the general public. And not only that, we do a members live stream every single week, exclusive to the members, which means that there's not as many people in there. You will get your questions read out and answered and things like that. So it's very, very important that we make sure we're delivering for our members. And one of the things that having these members enables us to do is to speak and to sort of gauge a reception. And everyone that I have spoken to that watched this documentary has come back to me saying the same thing. And in a nutshell, it is that it's weak. It's weak. There's really not much evidence there. So why don't you give me the official evidence that stands at this moment in time against Christian Brueckner?
So as far as I'm aware, I'm going to detail all of the actual physical and sort of substantiated evidence. Now, I'm going to forego anything circumstantial. I'm going to forego anything that is sort of like unsure or anything like that. And I'm going to detail what should be a case against Christian Brueckner, a very detailed case. Now, there is a Hotmail account linking Christian Brueckner to Madeleine's disappearance. What prosecutors in Germany have actually said is that this Hotmail account has messages on it that show that he kidnapped and murdered Madeleine McCann. Now, what they don't say, or they haven't released, is any information about what that evidence actually is. So from a perspective of someone from the public, you and I, right now, we don't actually know what that evidence is, and it's never been released. So to say that we can form any judgment on it is very difficult. But again, I would say, I don't know whether you agree with this, Jay, but my natural dispensation is when someone in authority, a policeman, someone that's investigating the case, someone that's paid to do this job, if they're saying that they've got evidence on that, I kind of take their word for it. Do you? Yeah. So that's pretty substantial evidence, really, then, to say that. If the police are saying that they've actually got records of it, that's something.
Well, hold on. You didn't give me the context of it. If they said that, yeah. If they said that 5 years ago and not a shred of evidence has come to light after 5 years and after multiple attempts to keep this man in prison for as long as they possibly could, then my trust of that statement would be hanging by a thread.
Yes. So, to be honest with you, I can't tell you any more than that. That's the evidence that they've been presented. Right. That's all we have.
So the evidence is there is no evidence, basically.
Well, on that first point. So that's the first point of evidence.
Yeah.
So now I'll go through the litany of other evidence. The second bit of evidence is the Helga B confession.
Okay, hearsay.
Okay.
Hearsay until I'm not saying they never proved this correct.
Yeah.
Until it is, it's hearsay.
The third bit of evidence is that apparently, and we talked about this in our last episode, Brueckner told an acquaintance that he took a child in Portugal in his car. He apparently said that he drove away when police and dogs were there at the house. He also allegedly asked the acquaintance if the DNA from a child could be found as evidence. I think you guys remember this. This is where he was asking, could sniffer dogs smell a body below the earth, effectively? And apparently the acquaintance said, yes, God knows what the acquaintance's qualifications are to do it. That is, as far as I could tell, and I've done my research on this, that's all the evidence.
We investigated a case of a man called Omar Bengua. And Omar Bengua was a man that was sent down for a murder in Bournemouth. I believe it was in the early 2000s. And basically, after being sent down, it came to light, in my opinion, that he definitely didn't do this murder. There was a prime suspect who had the hallmarks of a serial killer that fitted the murder pretty much like for like, and exactly. There was the description from the witness who was murdered that did not describe Omar Bengua. There was witness descriptions that did not describe Omar Bengua, including the accent of the man. They said it was a foreign man. Omar wasn't foreign. He spoke with a Bournemouth accent. And they basically sent him down on witness statements. And I think they took 13 witness statements. And the documentary that we sort of watched back and then did our own podcast on literally tracked down about 11 of those witnesses who all said, I was told to say that. I was told to say that. They wanted someone to pin it on. They told me to say that. They helped me in different ways. They got rid of, drugs that I had on me and stuff like that at the time. So what I'm saying is I have recently been covering a case. Sorry about that, my laptop goes off. I've recently been covering a case where we really see how flimsy witness statements can be. So really, I want more than Helga B and the other witness statement to really incriminate this man. As I say, I want it very, very clear on the record. Both of us think that this man is a piece of shit. Neither of us ever want this man to get out of prison for what he has done to members in the public and children alike, right? But am I convinced now? Am I even leaning towards the possibility now that this man is the man that took Madeleine McCann? No, I'm not. I think that documentary, for people with their eyes open, in my opinion, has done more to distance us from the possibility that this man is involved than it has to grow our suspicions of him. That's just me. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think, look, the ultimate thing that I want is to find out what happened to Maddie, and I want the perpetrator or perpetrators involved to be, justice to be served. That's the key thing. So if the police do have more evidence than they're letting on Christian Brueckner, and they know for a fact that Maddie is dead and that she was abducted and this guy has something to do with it, and obviously circumstantially we didn't go through this, but there's obviously a lot of evidence to say, you know, there's some circumstantial stuff. He was in and around the time. He's got an awful record of, you know, of child and indecent images and crimes against children and everything, all of his big rap sheet, all of the different criminal convictions. There's absolutely a profile and a rationale to say this man could have been involved. There absolutely is, just from circumstantial evidence. But what we need more than anything is something to directly link him. And based on the documentary, and also based on years of investigation, you would hope by this point something would be in court.
Well, we will find out by September, because if he's released from jail, then the police are bluffing and they don't have that information. I've got 2 questions to ask you. The first of which is, do you believe at this moment in time there's more incriminating evidence to suggest that this man was involved in more than he's stating, which is obviously at the minute nothing, no comment on the case? Or do you think there's more evidence to suggest that the parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, were involved?
Such a hard one.
It's your opinion. It's your opinion.
It's such a hard one. I think based on the picture that has been portrayed of this guy and how sick he is, I think you could absolutely... I think there are people out there that could absolutely think that this guy is the prime suspect and probably the only suspect. Now, the thing that's changed my mind recently, I suppose, is the fact that German police are asserting that they've found evidence to prove that Madeleine is murdered. Now, I've not really heard anything or anyone talking about that previously, like people saying that they know that she's dead, right? And I feel that to say, as a police officer, to say that you know that someone is dead, there has to be something that backs that up. They wouldn't just be able to say that. And in fact, if they did say that erroneously, there would be some litigation around it.
Right.
So I think to have found evidence on that, there must be something there. But if they're not bringing someone to court, then it opens up a load of other questions. And again, then you've got to look at other suspects, of which the parents are one.
What do you think the percentage chance that this man did it, that this man was involved in Madeleine McCann's disappearance? What percentage are you giving that?
55. I'd say there's more chance than not.
I think you're fucking crazy.
What do you think it is?
5%.
You think it's that low?
It's my opinion.
The thing is I suppose maybe, I don't know, maybe I put more weight on what the police are saying than you would. Do you see what I mean?
Never been wrong about anything before, have they?
So yeah, let us know. I really want to know what your guys' thoughts are on the documentary, and also where you are leaning, because obviously, you know what we're like. We're digesting all this information all the time. To be fair, my mind has gone backwards and forwards on this case a million times.
Yeah, and I echo what you say. Like, I'd love closure. I'd love it to be him. Yeah. I'd love it to be him.
Yeah.
Because then it's closure. It's closure for the family. You know, if it is him, right? And I'm not saying I've accused the parents of anything, because I haven't. I've not accused the parents of anything in this episode. I've given my opinion on certain things. Haven't really spoke about the parents. However, if it is proven that it's Christian Brueckner, what will I be the first to do?
We will put our hands up and literally say that everything we said about the parents was erroneous and false.
There you go.
And unfair.
There you go.
Like, we would absolutely put our hands up.
We would do.
And ultimately, I'd like to be wrong. I'd like to be proven.
You don't want to think.
I don't want to think it's the parents.
That the parents have been involved in something like this and then raised the 2 other children. You don't want to think that. No one wants to think that. So it is what it is. But until September, we probably, unless there's more new breaking news on this, won't cover the case again. Let us know in the comment section. I appreciate so many of you have put in so many names of victims, of cases that you want us to cover. We will get round to all of them. I do promise you that. At the minute, we're getting 1 episode out for a week for you guys. It's coming 48 hours before for the members, and obviously they're getting a members exclusive live stream. We'd love to ramp it up. We'd love to be doing more. But just trust us. No matter how many times you put it in the comment section, your cases that you want covered will be covered. There's obviously developments at the moment about the inquest into the death of Jay Slater, which is something that we are really, really interested in. So let us know if you want to hear another video from us that are covering the latest developments in that case. And just before we go...
Yeah, and also, if you do want to talk about any of these cases, and as Joey says, you're always talking about it, go over to the Reddit. It's Joey and Josh on Reddit right now. If you want to talk about any of the cases in more detail with people that are interested in them, you know, the fans and viewers of this channel, you can go straight over there. So yeah, remember, it's Joey and Josh on Reddit. If you search that, it will come up straight away. And you can suggest what cases you want to talk about and talk about it with all the other people watching. It will be a great way to do it. So if you have any more information about Jay Slater, let us know, because then we'll talk about it in the video.
Yeah. Or if you have any more about Christian Brueckner, let the police know, because they're clutching at straws. People, we will see you all in the next one.